Group by statement, as we mentioned before, is going to be required for all columns that are not listed in an aggregate value. Group by is used for creating groups. Now, when your users, or even yourself, start thinking about queries that are going to be using aggregates, the key word to focus in on is things like for each or by, and that's going to drive you to a group by. So for example, we might be looking for total sales by product category. We might be looking for the average sale for each customer. We might be looking for the profit margin broken down by manufacturer. So if you ever hear something like by or for each or otherwise, that's almost always going to be your indication that that needs to be inside of a group by. For example, let's say that I want to see the total sales for each region. And let's say select, and I want the sum of the total due. Now I'm sort of skipping ahead a little bit. You'll notice that I'm going with SOH, which I know is going to be sales order header from the AdventureWorks database. And you'll also notice that I'm going with total due because I know that that column exists inside of that table. So that's what I'm going to want. And we'll say as sales amount. And let's go ahead and say ST, and that's going to be for our sales territory. And we'll say name as sales territory. And like I said, I always like the strings around that. I frequently forget to type them in, but I always like them. So let's put those in. And then we'll go ahead and say from, we'll say sales order header, SOH, inner join, sales territory on, make sure we alias that, there we go. Let's also put in our as statements. You're always seeing my little typos. SOH dot, and then I want the territory ID, and that's going to equal ST, and then the territory ID. Now you'll notice that if I tried to execute this query the way that it is, it's going to give me an error message because it sees that sales territory name is not in a group by, not in an aggregate. So what we need to do is we need to put that into a group by. So let's go ahead and say group by, and then we'll say st.name. Now I want to point out the fact that I am not using sales territory here. And the reason that I'm not is because, like we've already established, the select line is actually one of the last things that's going to execute. So you're going to notice that all the aliases that you build in select are generally going to be unavailable anywhere else inside the query. The one little exception to that being order by, which is something we're going to talk about in another lesson. If I now execute my query, now what you're going to notice is we get our sales amount on the left, because of course that's where we put our column, and then we get our sales territory on the right, and you'll notice that we now have a breakdown for every territory. Now you'll also notice that we could continue this. So if I wanted to see a breakdown maybe based on the territory group, then I could go ahead and say maybe st group as, and let's say territory group. And then again, I'll need to put that into a group by. So this will be st group. Okay. Now what you're going to notice is I am going to get a little error message here, and I'm going to use this as a teaching technique here. That basically anytime that you see blue, that should always cause you pause, because quite frequently that means that you're now using a keyword as a normal column name, which of course is not going to be allowed. So you'll notice that we got the square brackets around group, and now when I execute this, then we're going to see our sales territory, and we're also going to see the group that that is inside of.